Tonight on the Gilbert K Show, Daniel Bekerman, founder of Scythia Films, Toronto, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Los Angeles, producer of the Oscar-nominated CSA-winning The Apprentice, and executive producer on 40-plus features. We get into Sundance 2025 breakout Endless Cookie and Oscar-nominated director Andrew Niccol's I, Object, starring Ethan Hawke, Anna Faris, Carl Urban, plus real talk on indie film producing, financing, and global co-production. Let's give a big welcome to the one and only Daniel Bekerman.
Hey, Daniel, how are you today? It's an honor to have you on the show.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Okay, let's get into it. So our first segment is Origin, Spark, and Satya. So what's the first memory that made you fall in love with movies? And was it a family camcorder, a local cinema, or a school project to flip the switch?
Good question. I did have a class project when I was, I think, in grade 10, where for French class. And instead of writing an essay in French, I decided to make a movie with my parents' camcorder. And so I forced my friends to act in this movie. And at the time, I was a big fan of Apocalypse Now. And so the movie I made for French class was called Apocalypse Maintenant, which is French.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we made this ridiculous movie that was a lot of fun. And, you know, it was people with there was a lot of baguettes. There was a lot of striped shirts. But there was a struggle. There was some sort of internal struggle going on that somehow related to Apocalypse Now. Or not, but it was enjoyable, and yeah, I mean that was maybe one of the first productions I was involved in.
How old were you when you started, when you did this film?
Man, I don't know, 15, 14.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. As a teen, did you take any film classes, or did you belong to a club or summer programs? So you had a camera. Is it from your dad or something, the camera?
Yeah, we just had a family, like not very fancy at all, just like a fairly cheap camcorder that I did use a lot and I liked a lot. And my sister and I made movies and yeah, so I did have an early interest in making movies. And I did have also some opportunities because my high school guidance counselor was kind enough to connect me with a friend of his who was a film director. And so I was sort of like an intern for that director for high school credits. So that was another opportunity I had. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what was the exact moment you realized I'm a producer and not a director or writer or editor?
Well, I actually started as an editor. And so I actually sometimes wish I could do some editing again because it's a very fascinating part of the whole process. And I will say I think editors are unsung in how big their contribution is to a lot of projects. You know, sometimes the director knows exactly what they want and the editor just, you know, gives them exactly what they asked for, but that's more rare. Usually I think the editor is a very important part of the puzzle in that they help to find the story in the post-production process. So shout out to editors. You are the heroes, or some of the heroes. And, you know, when did I realize I wanted to produce instead of edit? Well, I edited a lot of music videos, and sometimes the slate, the clapper would not work. So I had to sync up the images with the sound, the singing. Yeah. Often I did hip hop videos, so it would be rappers, and I'd have to read their lips and then make the picture sync up perfectly with the sound, and that was hard. And maybe I was like, maybe I should try producing, and other reasons, like, for me, what I've come to love about producing is that I have an opportunity across a lot of different projects, and I've made shockingly like over 90 movies at this point, which is a lot. It's too much, really, but I do what I have to do. And but what I've come to really love is that across many projects, I can kind of curate a slate of films that's really diverse, in terms of who the directors are and what the subject matters and genres are. And I can, explore lots of different things that I think if you're a director, you just can't make that many things.
Yeah.
It's just, you just don't, the capacity's not there. Nothing against directing or editing, but I've really enjoyed that aspect of producing. I also feel really connected to the industry side of it. Like, I think it's a fascinating business. It's a difficult business. It's maybe even a crazy business or a foolish business even to get into, but it is fascinating. And, as a producer, you have to create a business model for every project you do, where you have a plan on how to reach audiences, how to exploit the project, make money from it. You have to make that case as you're raising money. So you have to back up your plan with, really good arguments. And all of that brings you deeper into the subject matter and closer to the reason why you want to do it in the first place. So it really creates this pressure where you have to really know why it's a good idea to make the thing you want to make. If you don't know, or if you can't make arguments for it, you're probably not going to get it done. So it's kind of a good kind of pressure.
Yeah, that's a good tip, actually. That's great. So you grew Scythia Films into multi-city, full-service company, Toronto, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Los Angeles. What was the one operational decision that unlocked real scale?
Oh, it's just grown over the years. It started out as just me alone, and then I started to have, some help and have assistants, and then other people joined the company with different expertise. And there's advantages to having people in different places like London, England, and LA, and Canada's where I'm based. And Canada is an excellent place to be making movies. So it really just grew over time, but also the business model that I sort of found is, I require a team of a certain size. I need to have people with pretty wide variety of expertise. So yeah, I found that it was too hard to be small. It's also hard to be really big. So I've sort of hit a bit of a medium size structure that seems to work.
Yeah. That's amazing. Tell us about an early project you willed into existence and a tough early past that still shapes how you evaluate pitches today.
That's a great question. There's a lot of examples I could give, but there is can I give two examples?
As many as you want, yeah.
Okay. So I'll give one that's a scripted movie and one that's a documentary. So the documentary I'll start with is called, it's out, it's available. It's called Youth Unstoppable. And basically, I had a producing partner, and that partner's daughter was a part of what you'd call the youth climate movement, where they were, doing speaking engagements. They were part of a lot of actions that, had to do with young people expressing their voice and trying to do something about the problem of climate change, which would, of course, affect them being young people more than the older generation who were in power. because they're going to be living their lives in the world that's being created by the decisions of those powerful people. And so this was, people have heard of Greta Thunberg, but this was a little bit before she was, around, and we actually met her, and because she was a part of the same movement that we were documenting. And, this was a subject matter that I felt was important at the time. Yeah. But then through the course of making it, I had to really grapple with what I believed about climate change. And I had to also really think about that question of these young people, fighting to have their voices heard. Why is that interesting? Why is that important for a movie? So it ended up taking 14 years to make, to edit, and to put out into the world. So it was a very long process. And I think I learned more from that project about storytelling than I think I have almost on any other project, because we just had a whole bunch of footage and we didn't know what the story was in the beginning. And so between the director and I, we had to really think about what could make an arc, what could make a protagonist, what could make conflict. What are those essential story ingredients that where could we find them in this hunk of footage of hundreds and hundreds of hours that we had? And so that was another kind of good pressure where I was forced to really understand the essence of how to find a story in this situation. So that did a lot for my development personally. And then once I had that connection to why the story was worth telling, that's how I could keep it going. That's how I could keep the project growing and alive and get it out into the world. And that's really how every project is made, is you're connected to the core value of the project, what is special about it, what's unique about it, but also what's universal about it, which is one of life and storytelling's beautiful paradoxes, the tension and conflict between the specific and the universal. That's where every good story lives. So another example is a movie that I just finished filming called The Eden Express. And this is based on a book that I had read before I was in film called The Eden Express. And it was written by an author named Mark Vonnegut, who is a very famous father, also an author, Kurt Vonnegut. And Mark wrote this book that I just found an incredibly powerful experience reading it. It was an account of his own struggle with mental illness in the 70s when he was escaping Nixon's America, and his friends were being drafted into the Vietnam War, and him and his friends came to Canada and tried to kind of build a farm where they could live off the land and stuff like that. But he started experiencing severe mental illness. And it had such a big effect on me when I read this book that when I started producing it, I realized, okay, you can go and find any story, like any story, any book, any source. As a producer, you can try to make that into a movie. And so when I sort of realized that's partly what producing is about, I just thought about books I'd loved. And, that said, it's a difficult time to raise money for a difficult drama, and so raising money for it was not easy. And that one has taken, we just filmed earlier this summer, and I'm very excited about it. And it took maybe 10 years to get from the time we optioned the book to raising money and everything. So these are big undertakings, and yeah, you do have to will it into existence. And the way you will it into existence is there's a kernel with every good story. There's a kernel that of something juicy, something exciting, something that is like a question that you don't know the answer to, that you want to know the answer to. So that's a way I think about it is, can I identify what the question that this movie is asking? What question is it asking? And if it's an easy answer, it's probably not very interesting. If it's a difficult to answer question, but that you get a little obsessed with and you really start wrestling with it, that's a very good sign. And holding on to that, when you find that kind of question and holding on to that question and letting it grow and vibrate until it looks like it's going to explode, that's how you will something into existence.
Wow, that's a great tip, actually. So we're going to take a break and we're going to play a game, this or that, and it's a rapid fire game for the audience to get to know you. So you can say both if you don't want to upset anybody. But are you ready, Dan?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Sundance premiere or fall award season?
There's no actual right answer for that because Sundance is very special. Sorry, I can't give you a easy answer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sundance is very special, and there's certain projects where there's no better place in the world than Sundance to premiere.
Depends on the project.
And I think that's been true for a long time, and it's still true. The fall award seasons, one way of framing it is Sundance might be a better place if you don't have distribution yet. Yeah. And the fall award season might be a better place if you already have distribution. That's one way of looking at it.
Okay, that's great tip. Director first or package first?
By package, you mean cast?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to get cast without a director. So I guess you got to say director.
Director. Toronto base or Los Angeles base for choosing talents?
Toronto all the way, go Blue Jays.
Canada, Ireland co-pro or Canada, UK co-pro?
Well, the Irish treaty, this is a deep dive question. Hilarious. I don't know how popular that game show would be about co-production treaties, but there, I think there is an answer because the Irish treaty is actually more user-friendly than the UK treaty. I think they're trying to redo the UK treaty. So there are certain advantages to doing the Irish treaty as of now. You also have access to all of Europe. Because of Brexit, it has complicated the UK treaty to some degree. I mean, obviously, the UK has a lot of strengths. There's a ton of amazing talent there. Cast, it's a great place to shoot, all sorts of stuff. So it's a hard one to answer, but in terms of the specific language in the intergovernmental treaty, I choose Ireland.
Ireland, okay. Animation doc hybrid or live action character drama?
Animation doc hybrid or live action character drama. Part of me does love the idea of hybrid documentary, because not necessarily animation. I did do one of those recently, which was fun and has been doing well and so on. And that was cool. And I also did a character drama that did well and got some Oscar nominations. And so I feel connected to both. I wouldn't really pick one over the other in all seriousness, but if I didn't have to make money and survive, I would do a lot more documentaries. I'll say that.
Yeah. I think lots of filmmakers will do. On location or soundstage control?
So soundstage is probably the right answer for a producer because it's, you do have more control. You can protect you can mitigate your risks better. So from a producer's point of view, probably soundstage is better. But I mean, it's great to be out in the world filming, and also in the future, as AI becomes more integrated into the industry, I think there may be something to be said for a kind of new version of the dogma protocol, of the Danish dogma protocol, where there's a lot of restrictions of what you can do in the filming process. Like they had a rule of no guns and, you know, all real sets. And I think the actors had to wear their normal clothes and stuff like that. So, you know, like, I think looking to the future, you might want to say location filming, because you might want to like double down on what making movies with actual humans, with actual real places, looks and feels like, as opposed to the artifice, which AI may take over a lot of the artifice side of things. So that's maybe an answer.
Great. Okay. 30-day shoot with precision or 40-day shoot with cushion?
So many questions about that question, but I would say 40, because everyone goes in thinking they're getting a decision and everyone fails. So probably 40, it makes sense. It's sort of a trick question.
Tax credit locked or pre-sales locked?
Your tax credit usually will all be locked. It would be weird for your tax credit to not be locked. So if it has to be a choice, I would say pre-sales, because tax credits is already a given.
And finally, Festival Audience Award or Jury Prize?
Good question. I mean, there's a big argument for audience, because that says more about there being an audience for the film. So juries are nice. I just did a jury for a festival, not for a crime. But yeah, you go with the audience.
Yeah, great. Okay, so let's move on to our next segment, craft breakouts and slate strategy. The Apprentice, Oscar nominated and CSA winning. What was the hairiest solve financing or schedule, and what choice behind the scenes helped it land with awards bodies?
You know, we had to recreate New York and Toronto on a relatively tight budget. We had a fairly short schedule. We had some challenges with our financing. It was not easy, and pulling it together. Luckily, we found wonderful partners who helped us get it made. But probably those are normal movie things. So probably the unusual thing is having the most powerful person in the world try to destroy the movie.
So Endless Cookie, it was at Sundance 2025. What did you learn about launching an animated hybrid doc on the festival circuit, and what turned a strong premiere into sustained awards momentum?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a great experience. Like, we premiered it at Sundance, and it was very well received. And we've just been playing nonstop festivals since then and winning many awards. I don't know, probably over 10 awards at this point. Best doc, best animated feature, best animated doc, all these different festivals that focus on various things. You know, it's been exciting. And well, I mean, you know, we had a great publicist in Sundance. That's an important thing. So I think we did certain things right in the publicity, and that probably helped with the other festivals. And but mostly once you're out in that phase, like, you know, things got a mind of its own, and what will happen is what will happen.
Yeah. I Object, Andrew Niccol, Ethan Hawke, Anna Faris, and Carl Urban. What made you bet on this world, and how did you protect voice while packaging marquee talent?
Well, I've since I was pretty young, I've thought Andrew Niccol was an incredible talent. Going back to The Truman Show, which he wrote, I think a modern classic, and a movie that is, you could look back at it and say it was prophetic, because it's sort of about a person who's the star of their own TV show. And everyone kind of lives their lives that way now. Everyone kind of lives their lives as if they're the star of their own TV show. I mean, look at you and I right now, right?
Yeah.
But so there was a long term respect for Andrew, and the packaging of it, really had to do with just finding the right people. Of course, finding people Andrew believed in. Also, it was built as a co-production between New Zealand and Canada, so that had to, we had to navigate that in our packaging process as well. So a million considerations, basically. Yeah.
You've EP'd, executive produced, you mentioned 90 plus, 40 plus features, including The Wedding Banquet, My Old Ass, and Love Me. What do you add first, capital, creative guardrails, or market access, and how do you decide?
Capital, creative guardrails, or market
access. Mm-hmm.
So in general, cash is always king, of course. Mm-hmm. Whenever there's money, that's a good start, the best start, really. Yeah. But I don't think that usually you'll go the distance if you don't have a strong creative, no matter what the genre is. Yeah. Even if it's like a lowbrow comedy or something, like you got to be a good lowbrow comedy, So, I think to start off with, if you have a choice, it's great to start with money, but the other things are crucial, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Global producer playbook. Scythia has worked on every continent except Antarctica. Share one co-pro location story where tax, credits, visas, and weather almost broke the plan, and how he kept the train on the tracks.
Well, first of all, I really hope that Antarctica institutes a tax credit, because I would love to film there. I've wanted to go there a long time, actually, and we have filmed in the other side on the North Pole. We filmed up in the Arctic. That's a big important thing I need to achieve at some point, is the Antarctica filming. But in terms of a project that sort of almost went off the rails internationally, filming internationally, well, it's not easy filming in let's see, parts of Africa that I filmed in, but it's just different. It's not that it's a big problem necessarily. It's just different. You have to get to know the way things work in the place where you are. And that's one of the gifts of producing, is that you get, I mean, again, in that theme of good pressure, you kind of have to learn to keep an open mind, to respect different people having different ways of doing things. And that is a must. So you have to learn to do that as you're producing in different places like India or, Morocco or wherever. You have to learn to say, oh, no, I'm not the boss of this situation. I'm a guest in this country. And that can be true even in the US or Canada as well. As, there's plenty of places where the environment means you're a guest and you have to behave accordingly.
Team and culture. So when hiring producers inside Scythia, what's non-negotiable? Taste, stamina, or notes, chemistry? And how do you grow juniors into closers?
Interesting. I think that you always need to, if you're a producer, you're a employer, and if you're an employer, you're some kind of leader. And I think an important quality to have when have any responsibility for other people is the belief that people can grow. and the belief that, what you see in any given moment of a person may not be everything there is to the person. And so, there's not really a quality that's a deal breaker other than not giving a shit. That's sort of a deal breaker, I guess, because this industry requires giving a shit. Sorry, I hope I'm allowed to say that. I'm not sure if that's
You're good. You're good.
But so yeah, and you come across people who don't really care enough, and especially with like producers and directors, because I think like of all the people running around the world calling themselves directors and producers, I would say less than 10% of them, which is a completely arbitrary number. I have no idea exactly what percentage, but a small number. I would feel confident saying a minority of those people are actually serious about doing the work of either being a producer or a director. They actually just like the idea of saying that they're a producer or a director and being known as that, and or having the kind of prestige or just incorporating that into their identity of who they are. And that's fine. Anyone can do anything they want, but it won't get projects made, or if it does, they probably won't go well. And because you really need to be like, the work is serious, the pressures are real, the responsibility is high, and we constantly fail because we constantly have to set our sights high, and even with almost knowledge that you can't get there, or it's very unlikely you'll get to the true height of your aim. So, I would say that if after a period of time, there's a person who clearly is motivated by those kinds of things, as opposed to some deeper connection to the importance of storytelling, it's probably not going to work out, at least with me.
So what type of producer are you? Are you involved in the final cut?
It's different on every project. Every project has its own sort of ecosystem, or its own little society of people and doing different things. And depending on my relationships with all the people involved, it could be totally different from one project to another. But I certainly sometimes develop things from the very, very beginning to the point where it might even be my idea. And then I find a writer, blah, blah, blah. Bing, bada, boom, you make the movie. And then also all the way to the end of the final cut. I do tend to get very involved in the picture edit. Only so far as I feel I need to. I don't want to for its own sake, but there's been a lot of projects where I've been pretty deeply involved in the edit.
Yeah, because the market and what the artist is looking for.
Yeah, it's the market is certainly a part of it, but it's also just the edit is the picture edits are sometimes like wandering in the desert. It's hard to see where you're trying to even go sometimes, and you think you see it and it turns out to be a mirage, and and then you've got to keep going, and sometimes people fall down on their knees and they don't want to keep going, and I have to say, get up, we got to keep going.
They give up too early.
Happen.
Okay, we're gonna take a final break, and we're gonna play a game, True or False, and it's time to test some quirky facts about your life and career. Are you ready, Dan?
Let's do it.
Okay, true or false, a film without stars can still pre-sell if the concept is undeniable?
True.
True or false, Apprentice had a single location that nearly sank the schedule?
Sorry, The Apprentice?
Yeah, had a single location that nearly sank the schedule.
I see. So you've done research. Yes, true.
True. And true or false, Endless Cookie convinced you to pursue more animation hybrid stories.
True.
True or false, January at Sundance beats September prestige for true discovery. Yeah, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. True or false, the most valuable partner is the one who says no early and often.
I would say false.
Mhm.
And there's not
True or
enough
false?
information in there to say, but yeah.
True or false, I Object is your most ambitious world build to date.
I don't know if that is. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's false, but I don't want to take anything away from my object, so I don't know.
True or false, you greenlit teams more than scripts.
False.
True or false, on a tight budget, the right post house can save more than extra shoot days.
The right post house?
Yeah.
True.
True or false, you're building a premium limited series arm under the Scythia banner.
True.
And finally, true or false, you still read every log line that hits your inbox.
That's true.
Okay, we're going to move to our final segment, notes, next move, and legacy. What's a one-line note you're given that instantly fixed a scene or character beat?
A single note. I mean, it's usually so case specific.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say some platitude that's like, always going to be true in that way. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have an answer for that, but I'm just going to bring up David Lynch's comment about the duck, the eye of the duck.
Mm-hmm.
And the eye of the duck is the scene in the movie where, well, what's interesting is how he describes the duck. Is the duck needs to have feet that it can stand on and legs. It's got these long feathers on most of its body. And the feathers are the scenes, If you think about the feathers as being the scenes, and then you think about the eye of the duck, and around the eye of the duck, those feathers are much smaller and finer and more delicate. They're tiny little feathers around the eye of the duck. And of course, a duck needs eyes to see and move around the world. So your movie needs an eye to see, to know what it is and where it is, and the scenes around the eye of the movie should be perhaps fine and delicate. I think that's a nice thing to say.
Yeah, that's great. A smart emerging producers listening today, what should they do this week to move on project meaningfully forward?
What I mean, it's the thing I discovered, which I would say to that is what I said before, which is the importance of, if you're alone in a room in the dark and you want to try to answer for yourself and nobody else why a project that you're doing is worth doing, what would your answer be? And are you satisfied with that answer? Forget everything else. Are you satisfied with that answer? And if you are, then that will that will be not only the answer, but also the question you asked. The idea of, is this thing worth making? Is this going to add something to the world that the world needs? That should show you the path forward for how to get it made.
Okay, good tip. 10 years from now, when audiences see a Daniel Bekerman film, what do you want what do you want that to promise in tone, craft, and courage?
Well, I'm mostly delusional, but I'm not 100% delusional. So I don't
Yeah.
actually think people will really be saying, oh, what this or that about a Dan Bekerman film, because that's not how people think about producers. But so it's not so much about what I would want people to say or think, but what I'd like to contribute with the movies I have made and am making. I would like to strengthen audiences' relationship with humanistic stories. So what I mean by that is I think there's two basic kinds of storytelling, and those are humanistic storytelling and propagandistic storytelling. And the determining factors that tell you whether something is humanistic or propagandistic is definitely not, a lot of people have a misconception, it's not whether you agree with the subject matter or the message or anything like that of the thing. It's nothing to do with that. In fact, that could make it more likely to be propagandistic storytelling if you agree with it. Because the difference is with propaganda and propagandistic storytelling, you start out the project with an objective already in mind. You already know what you're trying to achieve. Specifically, what you're trying to say. You have an interest in that message, material interest, either personally or you're part of an organization that has a material interest in that message, in that story, and that's propagandistic storytelling. Humanistic storytelling is much more about the question. Humanistic storytelling is much more about having an unresolved question, like I was talking about earlier, that you feel like it's important to you to explore. And when you explore that question, you actually understand yourself a little bit more through that exploration, and maybe you understand other people a little bit more. You understand the characters in the story more, and through that, you gain some insights into yourself and people around you. That's the potential. You don't always reach that, but that's the potential of humanistic storytelling. So I would like to make humanistic stories and help advocate for the role of humanistic storytelling in society.
That's great. Okay, Daniel, we're nearing the end of the show. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. Daniel Bekerman, everyone. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.